Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. Last day of class. Woohoo! Oh, you're done with me. Yeah, you guys are thrilled. I see. Okay. Was that?
For finals.
Okay. Well, you get to study. I guess it's happy times, I suppose. Well, it's hard to believe it's the last day of class, but here we are. We've covered everything. So everything you need to know, we've already learned. At this point now, it should be about reviewing. Today is the 21st. Your exam, I think, is what, the 13th? What other exams you have before me? A lot? Am I your last one or almost last one? Second to last. Okay. Well, I will be around if you need questions, but I'm doing what they call a cutoff. I know professors don't like cutoffs, but I have to add one because questions get very bad at the end. I'll be here on the 10th. I'll be here for most of the day. If you want questions, that's your cutoff to come by. If you email me something, I will probably say come see me in person. The reason why is email questions are not very good, and the answers are even worse. Generally, what I find is whatever question you're putting in the email is the wrong question. And if I can rephrase it, if for whatever reason you can't come by on the 10th, for some other conflict, maybe you can do something by phone, but I'll be around. I strongly encourage you to do as many of the old exams as possible. Start with the more recent ones, then work your way back. My older exams, I did things a little bit differently, so the more recent exams are probably more reflective of what I'm going to ask you on. Do as many of them as you can. For the last couple semesters, I posted the exam, the A+ answer, and also a memo. I didn't always do the memo. I didn't do them initially. I'm sorry. The idea occurred to me a couple of years ago. But the memos are helpful. The memos will explain to you the sorts of things I'm looking for, right? Josh, you have the A+. Why don't you need the memo? Because the A+ answer is not perfect. And very often the A+ answer will have mistakes. And the A+ answer isn't perfect. What I sometimes do, not always, is I'm like a hybrid A+ answer, where instead of giving you a single student's exam, I will pick and choose. I'll take, question number 1 from this person, and question number 2 from that person, and question number 3 from that person, try and give you as close as I can to a perfect exam. But I've never given 100. It's never happened. Usually the A+ paper is in the high 80s or the low 90s. So don't take the A+ answer as gospel. Say, Josh, how come they got this or that? They didn't get everything. So do as many of the exams as you can. After you do the exam, read over the memo, and then read the A+ answer, see what you missed. If you have a study group, share your answers, see what other people got. I think it's a helpful tool. I gave you all the chance to come talk to me at the midterm. I think like 4 of you actually did it. That's the world we live in. Maybe 5 of you did it. But those who did it, I think you had good feedback. Okay. Questions in general, things on your mind. I'll take substantive questions later, I promise. And I'll be here for the rest of the day if you need. But any general questions? Okay. My goal for today is to walk you through the Property 2 final exam from last December of 18. If you want to follow along at home, if you bring up the syllabus, which you should all have at the ready, it's linked right here. See, it says Fall 2018 exam, A+ answer and memo. Those are the 3 documents we'll be going over in class. I'd encourage you to do the exam in advance. I assume most of you didn't, so I presume you haven't. But what I want to do is actually walk you through how I would approach the exam if I were you. Keep in mind that you have 3 hours, right, to do 2 questions. Timing is very important. If you did not try one of the midterms and you haven't tried one of the sample exams, you're going to be in trouble. Because often people say, I couldn't finish. Then they take a couple more and they figure out how to budget their time. But if the first time you're doing this is for the final, you are going to be in a bit of a tough spot. All right, so let me start. Any questions before I start? Okay. All right. The exam Oh, this was December 3rd. This was actually earlier, so I guess you guys are later in the sequence. They always sequence the exams differently. I don't know what the rhyme or reason is. It's never first or second. It's always moving around. By the way, I have not written your exam yet. I have no idea what the question is, so don't even try to ask me. I haven't even thought about it, because I know you're trying to yank it out of me, because you're very smart like that. I haven't even thought about it yet. I deliberately haven't thought about it, lest I give you something inadvertently. I'll write it probably next week or so, after Thanksgiving. The exam's 3 hours, okay? You have 2 questions. Each question is worth equal weight, 50%. Right? Each question has 1,000 word limit, right? 1,000 and 1,000. What does that tell you? If you spend all of your time on question number 1, and then you rush question number 2, you are doing yourself a disservice. You should try to spend roughly 90 minutes, an hour and a half, on each question. If you find yourself on question number 1 and you're like at an hour and 45 minutes, you should probably go to question number 2 and stop. Putting all of your effort in one question and leaving the other question blank is not going to help you. Now, how do you know how to pace yourself? The only way to know how to pace yourself is by practicing. Right? If you want to run a race or anything else, you have to practice to get your pace. But I can give you some tips, which you can use as you wish. You have an hour and a half to do a question. I'd recommend you spend 15 or 20 minutes reading the question. It's not always going to be the case, but I think in about 15 or 20 minutes you can read the question well. Maybe you need more, maybe you need less, I don't know. And then you have 5 questions to answer, right? Each part has 5 questions. Maybe 10 to 12 minutes per question, right? If you take 10 minutes for each of the 5 parts, that's 50 minutes. And then you take 20 minutes to read it, that's an hour and 10 minutes. That gives you 20 minutes to read over and check yourself. But maybe you only need 10 minutes to read the question. Then you have more time for writing. But each of the 5 questions should be given the same amount of time. This happens all the time. I see it. You spend 45 minutes on question number 1, and then you rush question 5 in 5 minutes. I can tell, because the first answer is really long, and it gets shorter, 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 shorter. I know it. I know exactly when I do the exam. Give each question roughly equal amounts of time. Okay? Everyone with me? Okay. Please use the word count feature. I know this is kind of dumb. Do not use the character count. Does everyone know the difference between a word and a character, right? A character is a letter or a symbol or a space. A word is a word. Every year, at least one student does a character count. And you're laughing. How do you do that? Because the exam software by default gives you a character count, right? 1,000 characters is basically 3 text messages. It's short. Don't do that. Please don't make me fail you. It happens every year. I'm warning you. 1,000 words. If you don't know how to use the word count feature, go ask the registrar. If you can't figure out an exam day, use your finger. Just count, okay? If you go over 1,000 words, I stop reading. This is fair. Everyone has the same number of words to work with. If you can type 5,000 words, bless your heart, I will not credit them, right? I am going to credit up to 1,000. Every year, at least 1 or 2 people go well over 1,000. And what kills me is they're good students, right? They're very good papers. And I just don't read the second half. It happens every year. I'm telling you, don't do it. One of you will do it. You'll panic. You'll forget. I know it. It's going to happen. There are 70 of you here. At least 1 of you will do this. Don't be that person, right? Because you go over the word limit, you're stuck at a C, right? You can't get much higher simply because you've left portions blank. If you go over by 20 words, you know, it's not going to kill you, but you lose some points in the last one. Go over by 100 words, you're in trouble. So please keep track of the words. Exam open book, completely open book. Bring whatever you want that's printed out. You cannot bring notes on an iPad. I polled students on this a couple years ago because someone said, can I bring my iPad? I don't want to print out all the paper. The cheating risk is too strong. There's just no way to prevent cheating because even though your laptop is locked down, your iPad has Wi-Fi, right? You can check stuff. You can chat people. So unfortunately, you have to print, kill trees, right? You're stuck. Please type. Please, don't handwrite. I know there are people who like to handwrite. Learn to type. You're lawyers. You have to take the bar exam in a couple years. If you handwrite the bar, you put yourself at a handicap. I don't know the way to put it. Like you're going to have a 3-day, or I guess now basically 2-day exam with a lot of stuff you have to do. There's no reason to have to do it with your pen. Why? you can't edit with a pen. You have to start crossing stuff out and drawing arrows and lines, and that makes it very hard for me to follow it. And I assure you, no matter how neat you think your handwriting is, it's not that neat, especially when you're under a time crunch exam, right? Whatever penmanship skills you have go out the window when you have a time crunch exam. And at least 2 of you will handwrite. I'll get blue books. I know it happens every year, but I'm not warning you. I'm encouraging you. Don't do it. I've only ever had one student pull an A by handwriting. It happened when she was top of her class, and she wanted to handwrite, so she handwrote. It's a very good exam. But generally, the handwriting exams just aren't as good because they don't have as much time to think and edit. So don't put yourself into service. If you don't have a computer, find a way to borrow one for the day. I once made the mistake my first year. I said, oh, if you don't have a computer, the school can lend you one. Apparently, they can't. Like, I felt like a jerk. I said, oh, we'll find you one. And the school said, oh, we don't do that, which I think is unfortunate. You know, you're here, but you know, they have computer labs, right? But you can't like drag one in. Unfortunately, you can't just plug one in. But just find a laptop for the day, or you can buy a cheap one on Craigslist. Just get you through the day. But I encourage you to do that. All right. Questions so far? All right. All right. So then you open the page. The proctor says, oh, by the way, I won't be here. This is actually a weird thing in South Texas. I am not allowed to be in the room during the exam. And the reason why makes sense. They're afraid someone might ask me a question and get an unfair advantage. Like my first year I was here, I was like, oh, excited. I was like, hey, guys, good luck. And the proctor's like, you need to leave now. I'm like, oh, OK. And I was like, OK, I'm done. Like, I was trying to be nice. You know, wish everyone good luck, but I'm not allowed to do that. So I won't be here. Please don't ask the proctor any questions. You know, if there's something that's screwed up, just make a note of it, and we'll figure it out later. If you have any sort of issue with your exam, please don't email me. Please, for the love of God, because that defeats the anonymity, right? When you say is, I did X on my exam, I'll know who you are. Go to the registrar. What they'll do is they'll contact me, and they'll say a student named X did this, and then I'll figure out what to do. So if you have any issues with your software, your computer crashes, right, something weird happens. Like I've had it happen almost every year where someone starts typing and they finish writing by hand. It happens. I mean, computers crash, and I can deal with it, right? The software has a backup feature such that whatever you type will be saved, and then you start writing by hand. So if that happens, don't email me. Just tell the registrar, and they'll figure it out. But if your computer crashes, it happens. But just be ready to handwrite if you have to. That's usually when I get a blue book. Actually, it's only the second half that's by hand because something crashed. It happens. Okay. All right. So I want to read now question number 1. Any questions so far? I don't want to rush you. Yes.
Since there's separate parts, should they all be 200 words?
Okay, so that's a good question, right? You have a total of 1,000 words, and you have 5 parts. You should try to get it roughly 200 each. But if it's not 100, I'm sorry, so roughly 200 words each. But if it's not perfect, don't kill yourself. And there might be a good reason why not. Maybe question 1 asks about an issue you really know well, and then question 2 asks about an issue that you don't know as well. You can put more words in the first and the second. But what I don't want, and I see every year, is question 1's like 400 words. And then question 5's like 75 words, right? That just means you ran out of space, right? The worst thing you can do is start editing and start saying, oh, delete this. You're wasting time, right? Every minute you're not writing, you're wasting time. And the only way to know what 200 words feels like is to actually take a sample exam. You get a sense of what I'm looking for. It's like 7 or 8 sentences. I mean, if you want to just estimate it, basically a paragraph and a half. I mean, people write sentences of different lengths, so it's hard to give me exact, but around 8 sentences, that's a good answer. That's enough to get across. All right. Thank you for the question. And please ask whatever questions you want. I want to clear up any doubts in front of all of you if I can do that today. All right, so let's start. The very first thing you should do, this doesn't sound really dumb, but you should do it, is read the instructions carefully. Not just read them carefully. Why? I give you very useful information that you need to know. And I put this up front. Okay, so the instructions begin. Everyone can see the screen okay? I'll make it a little bit bigger if I can just, there it is, zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so the instructions begin. Please write a memo of no more than 1,000 words affecting 5 property issues affecting Elsa. Oh, it's my Frozen exam, yeah. I've ruined many Disney movies. Like, I wrote one exam on Coco, and a student said, you ruined that movie for me. She was very mad. It was a sad movie. Frozen 2 came out. Anyone see it yet? It comes out tonight. You going to see it? No. Oh, well. All right, Okay, well, your daughter's going. Okay, well, hope she enjoys it. Okay, I might start singing with this one, so I apologize in advance. All right, so write a memo of 1,000 words affecting Elsa and Anna on Iceacre and Sunacre. The court in this jurisdiction apply all American common law rules. That is important for you, right? We've often discussed this semester, there are different rules for common law and the modern, right? The common law is restatement first, and the modern is restatement second or third, right? Why is this important? Because if there's a question on, say, covenants or easements, don't give me the modern approach. Give me the common law approach, right? There's a question on caveat emptor, for example. Don't give me the modern approach. Give me the common law approach. I don't put that there inadvertently. I put that there deliberately. And I can't tell you how many people just skip over it. I'm warning. I'm telling you, and you're going to do it. But I feel I disclosed. OK. Common law rules are bound by the United States Constitution. OK. Now, you should think here, Blackman, why do I care about the Constitution? We should all care about the Constitution. But in this class, I'm going to be asking you a takings question, right? The only constitutional issue we've done involves a takings clause. So that's like a little hint I'm giving you. OK, Josh, a takings clause in this exam. OK. And the statute of limitations, 5 years. Now, why am I asking about statute of limitation? This is going to be an adverse possession question, right? I don't think we've done anything else this year, or maybe with warranties perhaps, where the limitation period matters, right? I'm not going to say the period for adverse possession is 5 years because that gives it away. I'll say the limitation period is 5 years, right? But that's your hint that, OK, Josh, there's an adverse possession question, right? Generally, if there are 5 questions, I can test on 5 or 6 issues until I merge them. So on an exam, I might ask you about 10 or 12 issues, give or take. We've covered, what, 20-something classes? So I can generally test on half of our classes. That's how I approach it, right? I try to ask you at least one question from every other class, if that makes sense. So I'll cover basically half of the semester. I can't cover everything, but I can do maybe half of it. That's generally how I try to think about it. OK. Now let me zoom out a bit. The entire exam, my friends, is 1 page, 2 pages. It's short. My older exams are longer. And I'll tell you, writing a short exam is harder. It's actually very easy to write a long exam. The reason why is once you write the exam, I can't give you more information, right? I have to give you as much information as you need to answer the question, but not anything more than that. So the difficulty is, how do I write a short exam that still gives you all the information? My first few exams, I was not very good. I got better. So now this exam is very tight, but gives you everything you need. What that means is just read carefully. Every word, every clause, every sentence is giving you something specific. And if you don't see why it's specific, you've missed the issue, right? You've not spotted the issue, so to speak. OK. So we have 5 questions. And the way I do it now is I'll have question 1 and like a little question there, right? And then question 2 and a little question there. OK? Question 3, question 4, question 5. All right? Everyone with me? All right, so let's start with question number 1, if I can. All right, again, the question is just a paragraph. So when I say it takes you 15 minutes to read the entire exam question, you might do it in 5, but really take your time to read it, maybe read it twice or 3 times. As you're reading the question, you should be making notes in your margins, start thinking about what to write. OK, so question number 1. Elsa and Anna live together on Castle Acre, which is owned by their parents. OK. Anna asks Elson, do you want to build a snowman? Right. Or ride around the bike on our halls, right? I spent actually a lot of time. These are the lyrics from the Frozen song. And I actually worked into the question. I was very proud of this one. They're not all as good, but this actually with the sun and the ice actually worked out well. Right. Do you want to build a snowman or ride our bike around the halls? Elsa replied, sure. OK. Now, Anna did not tell Elsa that their parents prohibited building snowmen and riding bicycles on Castle Acre. OK, so what do we have here? They're now going to be engaging for the next 5 years while the parents oversees the following schedule. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 days, yeah. Anna rode her bike and Elsa built a snowman. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, they flipped. Anna built a snowman and Elsa rode her bike. OK. After 5 years, her parents returned and told them to stop building the snowmen and riding their bikes. The daughters refused. The parents then sought an injunction. Oops, wrong one. where is it? The parents sought an injunction to block Elsa and Anna from building snowmen and riding their bikes. Okay. The daughters argue they have the right to take these actions. The question is, how should the court resolve this dispute? Right? How should the court resolve this dispute? We have to think about what is actually at issue here. All right. So first off, we have a question about prescriptive easements. It's not adverse possession, and I think even the A+ answer screwed this up, right? People are nodding. I was looking at this earlier, right? I'm telling you, everyone confuses prescription and adverse possession. I hope you don't do it, but people do it all the time. So this is a question of prescriptive easements. But it's a complicated prescriptive easement question for a few reasons. First, we have the issue of tacking, right? Generally, we think of attacking where I'm here for 5 years and you're here for 5 years, and we put our 10 years together, right? But this is a little bit different. This is every alternating day, they switched activities, right? They acquired it together, right? What case does this remind you of? Miller versus Lutheran Conference and Camp Association. This was the case about the two brothers who ran the beach club, or sorry, the lake club with the swimming and boating. Remember this? How they had the club for many years and they acquired the easement as one stock, right? So I think the sisters would have acquired it together. But there's a difficulty here even further about the state of mind. Anna was aware the parents prohibited this activity. Right? Anna was aware the presence prohibited this activity, so therefore I think Anna would be characterized as an aggressive trespasser. The sister, Elsa, was never told that this was prohibited, so she was, her state of mind was not aggressive at all. Right? She wasn't aggressive in the least. Given there's a common law jurisdiction, I think it'd be safer to assume the aggressive trespasser standard applies. In which case, perhaps Elsa, poor Elsa, would not have the requisite state of mind. And if she didn't have the state of mind, then I don't think they can acquire as one stock, and I don't think they have continuity for a decade, because only one sister had the requisite state of mind for half the time. Then you have the issue of whether the trespass was open and notorious. It says the parents were overseas, right? Was there notice? Was there actual notice? The facts in this question are silent. But there's a question of whether they knew about it. Okay? You see what I did there, right? You could have just said, here are the 4 elements for adverse possession, right? Entry, continuity, a state of mind, whatever, right? Versus jumping into it and saying that continuity is present, tacking is present, right? Because the state of mind is not satisfied because Anna didn't know and she was not a hostile trespasser or aggressive trespasser, right? The best answers work in the answers right into the elements of the test. It also helps to talk about the cases. I mentioned the Lutheran case, but you have others. You have von Valkenburg, right? That was a case of prescriptive easements. That was the guy crossing over the yard. You have Howard versus Kunto, right? That goes to state of mind. You have the O'Keefe case with the painting, the George O'Keefe case, right? These are all cases that you should be thinking about citing. And what I encourage you to do is have somewhere in your notes a handy sheet for every topic we've discussed, all the cases in that topic. Oh, right, I've already given you that. It's called the syllabus, right? Right? The syllabus lists all the cases in a given topic. If you have a question on topic X, just check the syllabus. And I was like, oh, okay, talk about that case, and that case, and that case. That's a relevant case, right? Don't talk about if it's irrelevant, but if there's some discussion, it helps me know you know the material. A lot of students, for whatever reason, last year talked about covenants and equitable servitudes. I don't know why. Students always confuse covenants, equitable servitudes, and prescriptive easements. I don't know why. It wasn't relevant, right? There was no covenant in place. It was simply the parents giving a command to the daughter. A couple students actually wrote that there was a nuisance, that riding their bike was a nuisance. I don't know why they wrote that. I guess it's annoying, but it's not really a nuisance. Some students actually screw up the disability issue, right? So you know with adverse possession, if the person you're squatting on is a minor, you told the statute of limitations, right? Some people assume that Elsa and Anna were minors, which I never gave that fact. And they said, oh, because they're minors, the statute doesn't run. That's wrong. The tolling applies to the person who owns the property, not the squatter. So the age of Alice and Anna is irrelevant, which is why I didn't even give their age. Okay? Over with me. I want to go over the A+ answer now, but are there any questions before I do that? Yes, Stephen?
So is it, I guess, is it your intention that when you use popular culture characters like that?
You don't need to know.
Well, I'm just saying people will misconstrue.
But it doesn't matter, though. But the reason why their age is irrelevant.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I know that they're irrelevant, as you were saying. I was just wondering, when you use these, people draw in all the time facts that are not.
Yeah, let me answer that question. So some years ago, this is dating myself, but I remember there was an exam where a professor mentioned something about Justin Bieber. It was a contracts exam. At the time, he was under the age of 18. And so it was a question about capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a student said, I don't know who the hell Justin Bieber is. I think that's an unfair question. I will never ask you a question in which the pop culture reference informs the answer, right? If you draw an inference based on an incorrect understanding of the law, you screw up the law, right? Their ages are not relevant. In fact, I bet Anna was over, I think Elsa was over the age of 18. What do you think for the movie? Was she 18?
No, never doing that.
How old? But she was getting married.
Right.
Anna was getting, no, but Anna was getting married.
She got like disbanded to the mountains.
Was she, anyway. But there is a risk, and I think I take Stephen's question well, about using pop culture. People may incorporate things they know. All right, guys, enough. Okay. Shh. I'll put my Disney Plus account on later. I got one. It's very good. It's very good. It's actually a surprisingly good deal. But Stephen, I think your question's well stated. If you're saying like, wow, I know something about the movie, Black must be asking about that, then you're wrong. Right? I won't ask you something that requires outside knowledge. And for whatever reason you think, oh, then you're wrong. Then you screw up the law. That's the short answer. All right, let me go over the A+. Again, I think this is wrong in a lot of regards. I'll explain to you. And this was the A+, my God. So if you think, oh, wow, that's bad, Josh, just wait to see what you guys do. Right? When you're under time, look, I've been grading for many years. The average A+ gets high 80s, low 90s. If one of you gets 100, I will shake your hand. I'd be happy to, but it hasn't happened yet. I think once I had a 98, and that was a very unique student. But once I had a 98, it doesn't happen. So you can dunk on this exam all you want. I hope you do as well. All right, yeah.
For Kathy, can you say that they didn't have privity because she didn't know?
Yes, yeah, and the question of privity was actually a formal arrangement or agreement. I think you could have written about privity as well. I think it's a fair point, a very good point. Thank you for that. All right, so let's see. Anna and Elsa argued that they adversely possessed the land. Okay, it's not prescription. I'm sorry, it's not adverse possession, it's prescription. So that's not right. But they got the 4 elements: entry, open, notorious, continuous, adverse on their claim of right. Okay, got the elements. Good. They meet the entry element because they're using the land by riding their bikes and building snowmen. They start the clock, and they do so for 5 years. Again, the limitation period was 5 years. Because they know their parents privy the activity, Anna and Elsa argue they meet the aggressive trespasser standard. That's not entirely clear. One knew, the other one didn't know. So I'm not sure if that's right either. They meet the notorious element because the parents were unaware. The use was reasonably visible. The parents were overseas. That may not be right either. Parents were arguing under von Valken versus Lutz. There wasn't a proper entry because the entirety of the land was not used. That's a good point, right? They're only using part of it. But I'm not sure that part of Lutz was correct. They'll argue the continuous element's not met because it was being used in the same fashion as the owner. Implied or quasi-easement. I'm not really sure why that's relevant either. Reliance or necessity. So it's not a very good answer, but that probably gets you 8 or 9 points. I'm telling you, you think, God, Josh, how can that be so bad? I have to grade 70 of these, right? And this is one of the better answers. I know this happens. Everybody's like, oh my God, how could that class be so dumb? We're not that dumb. Look, when you have an exam, you have to shoot to be as good as you can be, right? So we'll criticize this, but I hope you all do well. It's probably 8 or 9 points right here. Okay. Questions? Stephen?
When you reference cases, just like they did, just one word from the case.
Yeah, that you don't need to give the full name. I know what Lutz is. I know what Auden is. I know the names of the cases. You don't need to give the year or anything like that. If you discuss a little bit, that's better. But I think this is a decent usage of von Valkenburg. I think Kunta would have been a better case. Also, the one stock rule with the Lutheran case as well. Okay. All right, any questions on number 1? Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. I didn't see you.
So you said this is like 8 or 9 points.
Probably.
Are there like a set issues that you want incorporated that you're looking for?
The ones I gave in the memo are the ones I'm looking for.
Okay.
And so generally, there might be 6 or 7 issues I'm looking for. If you get 3 or 4 of them, you probably have an 8 or 9. Right? It's, in other words, I have a very specific set of range of issues I'm looking for, and there'll never be a student who gets all of them. Right? Assume I get 2 of these, and get 3 of these, or get 1 of them. Right? If you just recite the 5 elements of adverse possession, you're on your way to like a 5 or a 6. Right? If you just give me the basic law, 5 or 6. But to get to a 7 or 8, you have to start giving more analysis. Okay, questions on number 1? Yes, ma'am.
Not about number one, but just in general. Like, do you have like a rubric that you like check off as you're going through?
Yeah, I have like, people are going to ask me to publish it. I have, when I write the exam, I write the memo at the same time. In other words, I write the memo before I grade. And I list all the issues I'm looking for, and then I can sort of see what you did and didn't do. I will occasionally revise the memo afterwards to say, here's what a lot of people did that's wrong, and I publish that so people can perhaps learn from it. Although I don't think many people have to read the memo after the final. They just get their grade and go. I think the memo is most useful for the following year's class, and that's primarily why I do it. But yeah, I write the memo first, saying, here's what I'm looking for. But sometimes it happens that I miss an issue in my own exam, right? Where a lot of people see something I didn't see, which is wonderful. I love when that happens. And I have to add that to the memo. Yeah, it always happens where I write a fact pattern that's so open-ended that people come up with stuff that I didn't even see, which is great. I try. One thing to note, there's not a right answer. If you say that yes, there's adverse possession, or no, there's no prescription, the yes or no actually doesn't matter to me. I write them so that they're close enough. Is there tacking? I think you could argue yes, and you could argue no, right? Does the state of mind permit prescription? We don't have a case in this where one's hostile and the other one's not. Maybe you could say that and collectively they are. I think you could make that argument. But I don't have a set answer in mind for most of these examples.
So you want both arguments, like what Anna and Elsa would argue and what the parents would argue? Or do you just want us?
Well, look, let's just look at the question, right? The question is, how should the court resolve this dispute? People seldom actually answer that question, right? In fact, they almost never do. What I want you to say is the court should rule that prescription was valid, or the court should rule the prescription is not valid, right? People get so excited talking, they never actually answer the damn question, right? So if you actually answer the question, I'll be happy, right? And you could say the court will accept Anna's arguments as more persuasive than whatever, or the parents' arguments. But ultimately, answer the question. I think number 2, same, answer the question, right? How did the court resolve this dispute? Number 3. How should the court resolve this? You see, sensing a pattern, right? This is a little bit different. Discuss Elsa's 3 things, right? So, always answer the damn question. Okay. All right. Let me read number 2. All right. Subsequently, Elsa and Anna purchased Castleacre from their parents as tenants in common, with a general warranty deed. Okay, so this is a question about different types of deeds. However, their parents failed to disclose a very important fact. Castleacre was haunted by a spirit. We know where this is coming from, right? Specifically, the ghost would transfer to Castleacre's owner a magical power to create snow and ice. As they were signing the contract of sale, Elsa's mother thought to herself, conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Moments after closing, the spirit possessed Elsa. Elsa realized that she now had the magical powers, but they had difficulty controlling it. Put on a show, she thought to herself. I keep wanting to sing it. Make one wrong move and everyone will know. However, 1 month later, she lost control of her powers and froze over all of Castleacre. The kingdom had a special land use ordinance such that all the residential properties had to be heated to 60 degrees in the winter. Castleacre was far below that temperature. Elsa and Anna sued the parents to rescind the contract of sale. How should the court resolve the dispute? All right. Don't forget what the question is. It's not about a nuisance or anything else. It's about rescinding a contract of sale, right? Most people just simply didn't. This is, by the way, why people get low scores. They don't answer the question. You can already see how, God, it's a nuisance. It's cold, right? That's not what it's not. It's not about the implied warranty. No, that's not what I'm asking you. People put that also. So this question brings together 2 doctrines, right? The first is failing to disclose a defect. Haunted, right? Is a spirit a latent defect? At common law, there was no duty to disclose. You just couldn't lie about it. Or there's a caveat emptor doctrine. We have this case of Stambovsky versus Ackley and Johnson against Davis. But those cases deviated from the common law. Right? This is why the instructions make sense. I'd say 80% of the papers just cite Stambovsky and say that's their case. That's not a common law case. Right? I'm actually testing you on a case that deviates from the common law. Yeah.
Could you mention the cases and then note as to say, however, these cases don't?
Yeah, I think that'd be a fine answer. Say, the common law trend is caveat emptor. Stambovsky is a departure, but this is not a relevant case for a jurisdiction. Right? But that shows me that you've actually read the instructions and you're answering the question that I put to you. Okay? So Stambovsky, the haunted case from New York, I don't think it's relevant. There's also an issue about the spirit giving Elsa this power, right? And then Elsa lost control and she froze over the house. Is the title marketable? Right? In other words, is the fact that the house is below 60 degrees in violation of the law, does that render it unmarketable? Well, we have a couple cases to think about. We have Lohmeyer versus Bauer, right? And then from Connecticut, Frimberger versus Ancelotti, right? Does the fact that a property is opening up litigation to being sued render the title unmarketable? Has there been any enforcement action? Has the state come in and issued a citation for being below the temperature? Keep in mind this is a general warranty deed. There are covenants. Are there any present covenants violated? Any future covenants violated by this spirit? As a result, can the court rescind the contract? Right. So I wanted you to talk about two different elements. You had both latent defects to the property and marketability of title. Students confuse these every year, right? Having a latent defect means a physical condition of the house. That's one thing. But marketability of title is whether the title itself gives rise to litigation. These are distinct issues, and please don't merge them. They're separate. They're separate issues altogether. Okay, any questions before I go into the A+ answer, which again is, I don't even think what they wrote is necessarily right, but it'll be a good place to start. People ask me, why don't I write the answer? And I thought about it. I think it'd be unfair because I wrote the exam. That's why I write the memo. The memo is basically my answer, telling you what I'm thinking about. That's why I do the memo now. All right, let's look at the A+. All right, the parents will argue that they properly sold Castleacre because Elsa and Anna signed a contract satisfying the statute of frauds under the common law. Caveat emptor, they had no duty to disclose the haunting of Castleacre. However, Elsa will argue that like the haunting in Stambovsky and the roof defects in Johnson, the parents had duty to disclose the haunting because it was material latent defect they could have learned of from reasonable investigation. But again, that's not the common law standard. It's wrong. Okay. But Elsa did not inquire, so this is only not nonfeasance but malfeasance. Okay, that part's right. Elsa will argue that the haunting is not only defect, but the title is unmarketable. Good, because she was not aware of the encumbrance and it violates the covenants against encumbrances because the haunting resulted in a violation of a city ordinance. I think that part's right. The parents will argue based on Lohmeyer and Frimberger. Good. The mere existence of the violation is not enough to render it unmarketable until the government enforces it. Susanna. Suze Elsa. I think that's also right. Therefore, the violation is latent and the covenant has not been violated yet. If there's a future covenant, you can come back later, but it's not yet violated. They could argue they're not responsible because Elsa caused a violation. That's probably also right. Now, this is not a bad answer. I think they screwed up the Stambovsky part, but the rest of it's pretty good. Okay. Questions at number 2? Questions at number 2? Yes?
So you would get no points for talking about Stambovsky or Johnson, even if you said something like, this is not the standard, but perhaps.
Look, I'll give you partial credit, but you got the rule wrong, right? So you're not getting full credit. So, I mean, you'll get some credit for talking about a case that's not the correct case to talk about. You'll get partial credit, right? Maybe you'll get 7 or 8 points. You're not much getting higher than that. You're not getting a 9 or a 10. Right? I mean, you guys know how the curve works, right? There are about, what, 70 of you here? 30 of you will get around a B. I don't know which 30 of you are, but most of you just will get around a B. That just numerically has to happen, right? And a B is usually 70 points, give or take, out of 100. It fluctuates every year, 72, 73. But that means you're getting basically sevens, straight sevens, right? If you get straight sevens, you basically have a B. Maybe a B plus, maybe minus. It fluctuates year to year. But if you get straight sevens, if you want something higher than that, you have to get eights, right? If you get straight eights, you have a 40. Or if you get straight eights, you get 80 out of 100. You're in the A range. Maybe A minus, B plus, A minus, whatever, right? If you want the top A, you have around 88, 89, 90. I post my distributions also. Generally, if you're getting in the 60s, you're in the C range. And below a 60, you're not doing very well. You're probably in the D range. So you can figure out if you're getting 60 points, that means you're getting all sixes, right? If you have 70 points, you're getting all sevens, right? And if you get 80 points, you're getting all eights. Generally, people do about the same in the first and second question. I always check, like, you did a really well question number 1, but you did bad in question 2. That means you didn't finish. Right? I occasionally have that, or you went over the word limit. But most people, their question 1s and question 2 within a couple points of each other. They're pretty similar. So the test is consistent. So if you get 7s, you're getting a B. Maybe that's what you're happy with. If you want higher than that, you need 8s and 9s. I've never given 100. It's never happened. But people give 8s and 9s. Yeah.
We're going off word counts. What do abbreviations count as?
Don't annoy me with them. Look, people get really creative. GWD, General Warranty Deed. Okay, I'll figure that out. CAE, Covenant Against Encumbrances. Okay, that was a little bit harder, right? If you really need abbreviation, you probably did something wrong, right? There are ways of saving words without giving me abbreviations. Don't do this. Don't do this. People will just make one long word, think they're fooling me, right? They won't put spaces between words. It drives me nuts. Don't do that, please. I hate it, and I will count the words. I will not. They'll just put an entire sentence as one word, think they're so smart. It's not. It's stupid. I'm sorry. I didn't answer your full question. Wait a minute.
No, I was referring more to something like statute of frauds. Or something.
Yeah, COF. I'm sorry, SOF. I know what that is. CL's common law. I mean that. You save 2 words, save 3 words. Oh, okay. Mazel tov, right?
That's all I was,
Yeah.
just for if
Yeah.
I'm just riding along.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I get. I had what was like, it was like IWOH, implied warranty of habitability. I was like, wow, that was a creative one. I have to actually think about it for a minute from the context, right? I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it if you want. Stephen?
I think the word count actually does an average of like 5 characters into word. So it doesn't count this.
I don't think the software does that.
I don't know. I just know Microsoft Word, when they do it, it's like an average of 5 in a space.
Well, students maybe are not doing well, but you'll get like an entire sentence, just one long word, and they'll just they'll use capitalization to make it like every word is it's like a ransom note with all these caps, and it's just terrible. People do it. They get desperate and they're panicked. Like, oh my God, I'm over the word limit. Let me just delete all the spaces quickly. It looks ridiculous. It's like it will happen. One of you will do it. You say it won't be me. It'll be one of you will betray me. Yeah, Jude, right? All right. Questions on number 2. Let's read the. I didn't finish reading, did I? Oh no, I did number 2. All right. All right. Any questions in the A+ answer? All right. Let's go on number 3 then. Making good progress. And again, my older exams are much longer. I've kept them a lot shorter in recent years. I think it's both good and bad. It's good in that you can finish quickly, bad in that you have to struggle, because the more I give you, the more help I'm giving you. It's like a lifeline. All right. Elsa uses her magical powers to create a living, breathing snowman named Olaf. Across the street from Castleacre is Sunacre. So again, there are 2 lots. There's Castleacre and there's Sunacre. In the center of Sunacre is a tall building with a glass exterior. Every day at noon, the sun reflects off the building and focuses a heat ray onto Castleacre. Olaf is happy about the heat rays. He sings, winter's a good time to stay in and cuddle, but put me in summer and I'll be a... Don't say it. Don't say puddle. Oh, you didn't know that one? No, kids. Okay. I'll be a happy snowman, right? One day the heat ray hits Olaf and partially melts him. Elsa sues the owner of Sunacre for nuisance, and seeks an injunction to prevent Olaf from melting further. How should the court resolve the dispute? All right, this is based on an example I think I talked about in class. There was a building in Dallas, one of these high rises, that had this like glass exterior and would focus a heat ray on a garden across the street at the museum and would burn all the sod. But our facts are a little bit different in that the building was there first, right? The building was there before Olaf was there. So here we have a question, is the sunlight a common law nuisance? Probably. But did Olaf come to the nuisance, like in Del Webb versus Spur Industries, or Spur Industries versus Del Webb? I think that's probably the right answer. But then it gets to the remedy, right? When they say, how should the court resolve this dispute? We have the remedy question. Is the remedy damages, like in Boomer, the cement case? Or is remedy injunction, like in Morgan, the Houston case with the air conditioning unit, right? What's the correct remedy? We talk a lot about remedies. You know, what are you trying to accomplish? You know, could Olaf simply just stay inside, right? I'm sorry, Morgan was the oil company one. Estancias was the air conditioning company one. So these are it's a nuisance question, kind of in your torts, but some of you might know about this one. All right, any questions before I go to the A+ on the nuisance question with the sunlight? All right, so what our A+ student put. Okay. The owner of Sunlake will argue the injunction should be denied because the building is not a nuisance per se under Morgan. This building is not negligent, lawful conduct, also a live snowman being hurt was not a common law nuisance. But also argue is a nuisance per accident. I've never used that phrase. You probably learned some torts, just a simple phrase. If your answer has something I never mentioned, you're probably not giving me what I'm looking for. But it's not wrong, and I appreciate you remember torts, but I'm probably not giving you extra credit for that. It's just not, I didn't teach, that's a torts thing. Okay. A nuisance per accident. Additionally, owner will claim protection by the coming to the nuisance doctrine. That's good. Also argue under Del Webb. The doctrine is not bar an injunction, but should be used as to indemnify the owner for the reasonable amount. Good. Even if it's a nuisance under Schultz, in balancing the equities, the building should be permitted to stand. Good. Also argues the harm outweighs the benefit. Regardless, Boomer damages. Okay, Boomer, right? No? Actually, this is nice. Okay, Boomer. That's right. Okay, Boomer. Right. I think that's a pretty good answer. I don't see anything that obviously stands out. I think that's a decent answer. I got the thing I want to talk about Boomer and damages. I think it's a good answer. Zeke?
Can I ask what
Please.
it's supposed to do with the fact that Olaf likes the heat?
Yeah, and I think that's I put that in the facts. Most people sort of missed in that one. Let me go back to the question. He's happy about it, right? In other words, you have this thing going on for a long time and no one objects, so maybe there's almost a reliance interest, right? How can you claim something's a nuisance when you're happy with it, and only when it actually zaps you, it bothers you? So there might be some sort of reliance just from balancing the equities, right? They didn't come right away. They waited for a damage to actually occur. So that might be one thing you could talk about. But good question, Zeke. Thank you. Questions on this one, number 3. Yes, in the back.
In your memo, you said to like not use sports.
Yeah, I'm not telling you not to use it, but if you're giving an answer based on stuff I never taught you, that's probably why I'm not looking for that, and you're not getting points for it. So you're writing stuff that's correct, but I'm not rewarding it, right? In other words, I don't think it's fair for me to reward you for stuff I didn't teach you, right? You may have all had different torts professors. I think it'd be unfair to reward one person versus another. Maybe we're all in the same section, I don't know. But in theory, I don't want to reward you for stuff you learned in torts. I think it's not fair. That make sense? I think will only happen in nuisance. Occasionally I have a contract question, I have a question about statute of frauds, and people start going with the UCC and stuff. I'm like, no, that's not for this class. That's not, we don't do UCC here. Property is very different. We don't have statute of frauds for that. Yeah, Hannah.
Well, I kind of looked at it as Olaf being for property in which, like, he's not really
Yeah, that also works. Yeah.
Does it really matter if we analyze the happiness portion?
I wouldn't have penalized you. No, that's fine. Like, look, I'll have. If you look at my old exams, you'll sense a pattern. I do a lot of like, I don't want to say science fiction, but like fantasy style stuff that's not real. Like where people come back to life, people die, right? People are resurrected, they're ghosts, right? So you can suspend your disbelief a little bit, but I won't penalize you for that if you assume that he's merely a chattel, a singing chattel. Well, I mean, the guy got melted. That's pretty sad, isn't it? We have to build a little cloud that follows him with a little snow cloud. Okay. Questions on number 3? Okay, let's go on. Number 4. Okie doke. Number 4. Soon, Elsa becomes queen of the kingdom. She is now in charge of the local government. Okay, so she's a state actor, which is important. Elsa remains furious at the owners of Sunacre, and she unleashes her power. I'm not going to. If I read it, I'm going to sing it, so I'm not going to read it. You can just read it in your head. Let it go, let it go. Okay. First, she drops the temperature in Sunacre below 0. The lake freezes over. We know that the owner of Sunacre fished for lake for recreation. Second, she buries Sunacre under 6 inches of snow. Third, she adds a layer of frost to the exterior of the building to eliminate the reflected rain in the castle acre. The owner of Sunacre files a suit against Elsa and claims that her actions as queen of the kingdom constitute a taking without just compensation, in violation of the 5th and 14th Amendments. Discuss whether each of the 3 actions Elsa took violate the takings clause. Please talk about all 3. Please. So many students did not talk about all 3. They lose points. I think I had it roughly 3, 3, and 3 points. So basically, if you only talk about one issue, you got 3 F10, right? If you talk about both 2, you got like 6 F10. And then if you did all of them, 9 or 10 F10, right? This one, I wanted you to talk about all 3, and a lot of students just skipped them. Maybe they forgot, they got distracted, whatever. This is a fairly complicated takings question. Okay, so what was the first issue, right? She dropped the temperature below 0. Okay. Is this a regulatory taking, right? Did it diminish the value 100%? Think of Lucas, right? Or maybe only harm part of the property because only the lake froze over. This is Wisconsin versus Murr, which has, what's the denominator? Does it matter the lake's only used for recreation, right? You still have other things you can use to go ice skating or something else. Some students know that freezing the fish in the lake was a taking under Horn, the Razor case. I thought that was a good answer. If there's not a complete taking, what about Penn Central, right? Has there been enough investment-backed expectations to constitute a taking? Well, here the house has been there for a long time, so I think it's a stronger claim than Penn Central. Right? So the first one, unfortunately, you have to go through the entire lot. You have to ask about a nuisance. You have to ask about Loretto. You have to ask about Lucas. You have to ask about Penn Central. It's the process we talked about yesterday. The second case, is dumping snow equivalent to a permanent physical occupation in Loretto? I think it's a temporary invasion because snow melts. So I don't think that would be a permanent taking. What about adding the layer of frost to the side of the building? Is that adding the wire? Is that like adding the wire in Loretto, the cable TV thing? I think frost melts, so probably it's not permanent again. I don't think that would be a taking. Also keep in mind, are any of these takings for public use, right? Do they help the public, or are these just to spite the neighbor? So I think you may even have a kilo problem. Even if there is a taking, I think you have some kilo issues. Yeah?
So we're supposed to take each of these independently and assume that when she dropped the temperature below 0, it wasn't permanent?
It's a good question. The court in Loretto didn't really define what permanent means, right? But I think it's a reasonable inference that temperatures do change eventually, and it's not a permanent thing.
Unless you
but
put magic in there.
well, I mean, look. I mean, if you wrote in your exam that this was a permanent spell that lasted forever, I would give that full credit, right? If you acknowledge that. I am more interested if you don't understand the difference between permanent and temporary. That's more important for me than if you assume the temperature will decline. But I'd be happy either way. I'd be a happy snowman. Okay. Oh boy. After the exam, I'll melt. All right, let's look at the A+. See what this person did. And once you look how long this one is. This student obviously put more effort in question 4 than any of the other ones. It's just how it worked. Through the 14th Amendment, the taking clause applies to state governments. Under a kilo, there's not a public use. I think that's correct. I think this is done out of spite, right? It's done out of anger. I don't think there's any sort of public use here, not even under kilo. So I think that's a fair point to raise. Owners will argue under Horn that there was a taking when they froze the lake because the fish were in there. That's a good argument, yeah. I mean, actually I don't know this. When you freeze a lake, right, the surface freezes, right, but the water below doesn't freeze. But what if you actually froze a lake? Would the fish all die? Yes? Did that ever happen where the entire, even the water freezes underneath the surface? Species. So can you freeze a fish and sort of reanimate? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, this is whatever. Elsa argued that the lake won't freeze, rendering the deprivation temporary. I think that's fair. The owner will argue that the frozen lake diminished the value, but Elsa argued under Murr and the Pencold dissent that the lake is only a small part of a much larger denominator, and even so, there's not been a complete diminution in value to Lucas. I think it's a pretty good answer. Owner will argue that there was a categorical regulatory taking when Elsa covered Sunacre in Snow Basin, Loretto. Did this person talk about the frost? I don't even think she did. She skipped. I'm telling you, you're saying, wow, they missed so much. It'll be you soon, right? Did she talk about the frost? I don't think she talked about the frost. Am I missing it? Oh, I remember. I screwed this one up. I think I pasted number. I did this one twice. I forgot to actually put number 5 in there. I'm sorry. I'll explain it. But the snow will melt, therefore it's not permanent physical. Okay, and here I put another answer. Just another one if you take a look at. Now he says the frost is a permanent physical taking, like Loretto. For us, it's not permanent. Diminution in value. Had to check. The sun's a nuisance. Okay. Penn Central. Yeah, it's a decent answer. Again, I don't think any of these are 10s. I think they're maybe 7s or 8s and 9s. Right. Again, if you get an 80, you're in the range for an A. That's generally how the curve breaks. Okay. Questions on number 4? Yes.
So, from what I'm noticing, it doesn't look like the question went through.
No, no one does what I want. I always ask for something, no one ever does it. Yeah.
So, you would prefer to see
Yes.
the actual steps being done?
I would yes, I would prefer it. No one ever actually does it, though. It's one of these frustrating things where I tell students something, they don't listen. But eventually, someone will do it. Yes, that's your answer. I say lots of things every year, and no one ever does it, but I keep saying it. All right, cool. Anything else on 4? Yes, Stephen? I'm sorry, Andrew.
So it's a focused light beam that she's trying to stop. Couldn't you argue police power if that light beam is capable of damaging other things?
How does a light beam stop? How do you stop a light beam by lowering the? Oh, you're talking about the frost.
The frost.
Okay, that one arguably.
Police power.
That one arguably might be police power. Yes.
Okay.
Although I suppose the light beam would melt the ice anyway very quick. Yeah, I suppose.
Well,
Yeah.
magic ice, yeah.
Magic ice. Yes, it's it forever. Magic ice. Yeah. All right, anything else on 4? All right, I'll go on to the last one. The number 5 question is always what I call the policy question, and the policy question gives students like this difficulty where they think, oh my God, the policy question is asking my opinion without regard to any law. That's not what I'm trying to do. The policy question is trying to aim at court decisions we've studied that aren't premised on doctrine, right? They're sort of open-ended, and that's what I sort of want you to think about, right? What are the equities courts weigh? So this one asks, number 5. Often when the government regulates land use, it must allocate the benefits and burdens in an inconsistent fashion to different property owners. For example, following a storm, the government may decide that it must flood a small number of properties in order to prevent flooding a much larger number of properties. This is Harvey we talked about. Discuss how the court should consider the balancing of the benefits and burdens when deciding cases under the takings clause. Right? This is not just asking what your opinion is. It's asking about the Supreme Court's precedents. And there are several cases you could have discussed. Right? You have Penn Coal, right, where the court discussed if we allow this mining, then this guy's house will fall into the earth, but we prefer the benefit of the coal mining because it's a vested property right. Right? So in that case, the court was willing to favor the property right over the possible risk to health and safety. Then you have the Brandeis dissent that says, no, we have to look at the parcel as a whole. And you have all this other space you can use, even if there's one space you can't dig on. You have Hadachek. You remember I had this guy who had a very expensive brickyard, And the sage said, sorry, you can't dig there anymore. No more baking of clay. And he lost his entire business. I said, well, but there's a nuisance, a common law of baking clay, and you don't want to have this in city limits. You have, of course, Penn Central, right, where they want to build a tower on top of the train station. And the court said, well, yeah, you can't build here, but you can transfer your credits elsewhere. You can build a tower somewhere else. You have all the benefits from your train station, and you have this great view. Your value be maintained, so you're keeping the view of the street. You have Lucas, of course, from South Carolina, where they said, well, you can't build anything. There's no economically viable usage, so there's a taking. Government has to pay for it. And the dissent said, well, of course you have some value, right? You have the value of you can tent and you can fish and you can camp there. And then you have the last case, our case from yesterday, the vomit case, Justice Kennedy's Wisconsin versus Murr, where they have to look at all these various legal traditions to decide what the denominator is. Right, you can't sell the land by itself, but you can sell the land together. Right? Any or all those questions are relevant to the issue of the parcel as a whole. Right? If you talk about a couple of those, I would have been happy. But the policy question is trying to see how are courts balancing these equities? How do courts balance these? What do they look for? And that's the sort of consideration of the benefits and burdens when they're deciding takings cases. I unfortunately forgot to put an actual number 5 answer. Where is it?
It's, if you go to the answers, I think it's under that.
Oh, I just got.
Wait, no, it's that second paragraph.
Okay, yeah. Here it is, right? This is it, right? Okay, thank you. I think I just copied and pasted wrong. Okay. So under case law, assessing the benefits and burdens when exercising the taking power includes whether they're stopping nuisances like how to check, which benefits many in the public at the expense of a few, right? That lots of people benefit when you have this law, even if maybe one person is burdened by it. Or like in Penn Central, when although it wasn't a nuisance, the value of the historic station to the public was of more benefit than the burden the owner trying to build a high-rise. Good. Further, under Penn Central, courts should inquire whether the owner has distinct investment-backed expectations in the property. More generally, based on Lucas, courts should determine whether the taking would deny the owner economically viable use of his land. Ultimately, the courts must determine the overall benefit to the public, constitutes burdening a few, and whether the few can be adequately compensated. That's a very good answer. I think that's probably a 9 or a 10 right there. I think it was a very strong answer. Talked about a few of the cases, with discussing benefits and burdens. I'm happy with that answer. So that's an A. That's an A answer right there. Questions number 5. Yes, in the back.
So, this isn't about number 5, but is everything you assigned for us to read fair game or just what we discussed?
Oh, whatever I assigned is fair game. I mean, it's impossible to talk about everything I assign. I can't do it. There's not enough minutes in the day. But I try to talk about as much as I can in class always. There are no surprises, though. I mean, again, this is someone asked a similar question before. If your answer is based on stuff that I didn't teach you and I didn't assign, it's probably wrong, or at least not what I'm looking for. You know, every year it happens where people will cite a case. I'm like, I didn't teach that case, and then I realize it's cited in one of these, horn books, right? One of these, study guides. It happens. I know, right? People use outside resources. Like, I didn't teach you that case. Where'd you get it from? Okay, you got it from somewhere else. That's fine. It's probably not the right answer. People are calling me all day. Okay. Questions number 5. Questions number 5. Questions in general. Questions in general. Questions on anything. Going once?
That's a quick question. How to answer the question? I'll ask. So it's open book. Does that mean textbook and?
Whatever you want. Horn book, study guide, whatever you want, as long as it's on paper. I don't care. Will not help you. I mean this sincerely. If you find yourself during the exam flipping through notes, you're probably going to run out of time. You don't have time to go through pages and pages of notes. Like the outline you bring to class, the outline you bring to the exam should not be more than maybe 15 or 20 pages long. Have a tab so you can easily flip through it. But you don't want to have something deep flipping through book. You're just going to have time, right? The issue spotting process means you look at the fact patterns like, oh, I know what Blackman's asking about. It should jump out in your head. And if it's not jumping out in your head, then you haven't prepared enough. And that's the sad truth, right? Your outlines, Maybe you forget, it's like, oh, what's the name of the case with the raisins? Oh, it's Horn, right? What's the name of the case with the haunt? Oh, it's Stambovsky, right? Maybe you can't remember case names. I mean, that's reasonable. But then have a quick listing of the case name with maybe a one-sentence description. That's what you should be using. But you're not going to help yourself. You know, if you got one of my students from last year, you get their outlines. Oh, I have this great outline, 80 pages long. It's not going to help you. If you're bringing 100 pages of class, a thick ring notebook, you're going to waste your time. You'll spend more time flipping than you will actually reading and writing. Your focus should be on writing. That's what the exam's about. Yes? I can do that. Okay. Let's see the easiest way to do it. And remember what class number that was? I can just pull up the graphic. That will make it easier because I don't have to draw it.
13 or 14.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'll bring it up. I'd be happy to. The privity thing. I know exactly what you're talking about also. You said it was class 13 or 14?
I think so.
Okay, I'll just give me a second. I'll bring it up.
That's 10, 10, 10, 15.
Okay, 1 second. Here we go. There it is. I got it. Right? This? Okay. All right. I often find this is the topic that gives people the most difficulty of the entire exam, and I'll do my best to explain it. Again, we had several classes on it, and I encourage you to go back and watch the videos again, but I'll do my best to explain it. When we're talking about covenants, again, this is for covenants, not easements. Please, for the love of God, if there's an easement question, don't talk about privity and horizontal, vertical. Just please don't do it. You're wrong, right? If it's an equitable servitude question, don't talk about this stuff, right? Apply the thing that applies. This is only for real covenants at law. Please, 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 please. You're going to do it anyway. Look, I give the same warnings every year, and every year I grade the exam. So you guys are laughing and smirking, but I know it's going to happen. It's like, yeah. Anyway, all right. So when you have one of these covenant questions, we always start with the same issue, right? A owns Whiteacre. B owns Blackacre. Okay? Now, how was a covenant created? There might be one option where originally A owned both Whiteacre and Blackacre, and A sold Blackacre to B with a covenant on the land, right? When you sell land with a covenant on it, we call that privity of estate, right? And when you have privity of estate, you have what's known as horizontal privity. What if B had already owned Blackacre and A just placed a covenant on it to restrict its usage? In that case, you have what's called privity of contract. When you have privity of contract, there's no horizontal privity. As between A and B, it's irrelevant, right? As between A and B, it doesn't matter if you have privity of estate or privity of contract. It makes no difference. Okay, with me so far? When does privity of estate matter? When we're thinking about subsequent buyers, right? So for example, B owns Blackacre, has a covenant on it. B sells Blackacre to C. And let's just assume for a moment that B has fee simple and C has fee simple, right? They sell the full estate. How can the burden go down from B to C? Well, you need to have a couple things, right? You first have to have privity of estate between A and B, but you also have to have what the book calls vertical privity. I don't like that phrase, but we'll just use it now. Vertical privity, that is, whatever interest B has, C has. If you have privity of estate, horizontal privity, and B gives the entire bundle 6 to C, there's vertical privity. The burden will run, right? That is, A can sue C, or perhaps D can sue C, right? The rules for the burden running are stringent. You have to have both horizontal and vertical privity. Okay? But from A to D, you don't need vertical privity at all, right? For the benefit to run, you can have a lesser estate conveyed, right? A could have a fee simple, and D could have a life estate. The benefit still runs. The reason why this works is because the common law wants benefits to run easily to make it harder for burdens to run. Okay, how's that? Happy? Happy snowman? Yeah, happy snowman. All right. And I encourage you to go back and rewatch the video from class, whatever date that was. I think, Jack, what day did you say it was? Yeah, October, whatever it was. Just go back on YouTube. They're all there. The lectures are all there. I know I encourage you to watch them again. Okay. Questions?
I think there's like one lecture missing.
I double checked yesterday. I think they're all there. Someone came by the other day and complained, and they were right. I think they're on the playlist. If they're not, you can email me. Okay. Going once. Twice. Thank you all for a great semester. I appreciate it. Thank you.